Bruner is here in the studio this afternoon. I believe he was just here with Charlie Brennan in a debate format Friday morning with Sarah Steelman and Congressman Aiken. John, how are you? Welcome back.
Good to be back.
All right, so interesting timing. I did not kind of pull the strings on this, but I get a call earlier today from Tom Schweik. You probably heard him on the air. He was thinking about getting in this race. He's decided not to. Now, I know when I ask questions like this from politicians, you're going to say that it didn't matter. But I mean, seriously, what's your reaction? Give me an honest answer to this, because it would have been a really crowded field if he gets in, right?
Well, it's obviously one more into the field, but I've been bumping into Tom along the campaign trail here all these Lincoln days. We're very positive, very amenable, good conversation, so there's no animosity whatsoever on this whole process. And when we heard that Tom was interested in getting in the race, our team sat down and looked at what we're doing, our message, and we said, we're going to continue to hold course. So there really wasn't any change in direction. And, so Tom's happy in making his decision, what's good for him, and I think it's good for the party, and we'll move forward.
What did you think of the letter that came out that Senator Danforth signed on to, and Sam Fox and some of these heavy hitters? What was your reaction to that? Because it essentially said, and this was one of the questions that I asked Tom Schweik, that you guys aren't good enough.
Well, I don't know whether it's saying as much as we're not good enough as that they know Tom better than they know me, and that's understandable. And I know many of the people who wrote the letter, signed the letter, and these are all good people. But, we're all struggling to find out what the best answer is here for Missouri. And obviously, I'm new in politics. I'm not a politician. I've been 33 years in manufacturing, looking to be a citizen senator. And but the good news here is that I've gained over 20 points here in the last few months. I've moved up to even with those who've been in politics for one for 15 years, another for 24 years. So we think the next polling that comes out, I'll be the breakout guy, and I think everybody will be happy about it.
Are you, you're crisscrossing the state. When we last spoke in studio, we've had you out a couple of times, but I mean, obviously a newcomer in this race, the big, before you even get, I would assume, John, to people getting to know you and how they may distinguish you from Sarah Steelman or Congressman Aiken, the first thing you got to do is they got to get you. You just have to introduce them to your name, right? They don't know your name. So you're that's important. John Bruner's in this race. You're spending money to do that. By the way, let me play this. You got a new ad, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see what this sounds like. Here we go.
Across America, factories closed, jobs are gone. I'm John Bruner. As a manufacturer, I've seen how Barack Obama and Claire McCaskill's policies have crushed job creation. But we're Americans. We can turn this into this. The path is clear. Roll back oppressive regulations. Stop reckless spending and debt. I approve this message because we don't need more politicians. We need a citizen senator who's actually created jobs to get America working again.
The focus is going to be, and you and I have spoken about this before, similar to what Ron Johnson did in Wisconsin. And you've developed a relationship with Senator Johnson, and he's an impressive guy. He's done a lot in the. Did you see, by the way, the video of him schooling Kathleen Sebelius a couple weeks ago? You might have been too busy on the campaign trail, but man, it was really effective, and that was on the issue of some of the effects of Obamacare, but. You're the outsider here, John, and that's the distinguishing factor in this race between not only your primary opponents, I'm guessing, but also Senator McCaskill.
Well, exactly right. These folks have been in politics for a long, long time, and of course, I've been willing to match my background, my resume against all these politicians who've been doing the borrowing and spending for all these years here. I've been in the manufacturing plant floor. I'd like to say from the Marine Corps to the factory floor. And I think the whole issue is, let's look at the resume. Let's look what people have actually done. And we have an economic problem. We have a jobs problem. In our family firm, now I've retired since 2009, but it's been around for over 100 years. We've seen World War I as a family, the Great Depression, World War II, all the ups and downs. We understand what it takes to get jobs going again. And that's what's really needed. And so there really is a very clear-cut approach, continuing to reelect the same politicians and hope for change, or try somebody who's more of a citizen senator, more like the founding fathers wanted. Get people from agriculture, manufacturing industry, and come in and serve a couple terms and get on home.
And I think that's a good thing. But here, let me raise this question, because one of the reasons, if I understand him correctly, that Tom Schweik was thinking about getting in this race was because he does have a certain amount of expertise on foreign policy issues as well. That's a big part of your job should you become a United States Senator. So if you're a guy that can, and the focus right now with the electorate is going to be the economy. There's no doubt about that. We're not in a period that we were 10 years ago with Iraq and even Afghanistan, although these issues are very important. And Iran is a very, very important issue that's out there. So what can you offer to voters in Missouri when it comes to your positions? Let's just talk about Iran. Where does John Brunner stand on that right now?
Well, let's go back because I think you made a very good point. Admiral Mike Mullen, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, this is the guy who's in charge of all the military, in a sense, reporting to the president. And he said our greatest risk to our national security is our debt. Now, yes, we're in different combat situations, but our debt, our ability to carry these things through, there's where our greatest point of vulnerability is. And so this is the issue. It's how do we get our economy going again? And I tell you, one of the things that have come across to me very clearly, things that I've experienced as well as I've gone across the state, is the incessant regulations. I'd like to use blizzard of regulations. We haven't had any blizzards this year, but we've had plenty of regulations coming down the road. And in fact, I was with a tool and die shop operator here just a couple days ago, and he says, John, I'm ready to expand. I see some opportunities here. But the regulations that are coming down and the uncertainty that these regulations have, it says, I don't know whether the rules of the game are going to be changed. So we have to get common sense regulations back so people can figure out they can build, they can expand, they can hire people, and not worry that they're going to be hit by regulations that could crush them, crush the jobs, or crush their factories and farms and businesses.
I completely agree with that. But on the topic, and I want to talk a little bit more about that in the next segment because Congressman Ryan's out with the budget today, and he talks a lot about regulations. Some of the specifics are still a little shaky, and we'll get into that with Congressman Price in the next hour. But do you have a position on how this country should move forward when it comes to Iran? And how would you differentiate yourself from either Senator McCaskill's position or the president's position on that?
Well, here's the number one issue. It has to do with leadership. And what we need is a president that clearly defines what our goal is, what our strategy is, what is the end game, what's the definition of victory, and give the reasons why and what we need to do to ensure that we achieve victory. And we have found a lack of clarity with our president in terms of these military goals and operations. And it's a tragedy what's happened in Afghanistan. It's also a tragedy that we have not stood firmly by our friends in Israel and get a clear direction where we are. This president has yet to visit Israel and make a stand, in terms of being there and saying, we're with you, we're behind you. So what we really need is a very clear, deliberative plan that outlines to the American people where we are, where we're going, what we need to do, what a definition of victory is, and when we're coming home.
One of the questions that came up when you were on Charlie's show the other day was on the topic of the minimum wage. And by the way, I defended you guys because I still think that a lot of people didn't know or might not have known up until that point exactly what the minimum wage was. It was $7.25. It seemed like a gotcha moment, and the liberals and those working with Senator McCaskill sort of ran with that. But here's there is a more important issue there, because even though you're a guy who's been participating in the economy and not in what's happening in Washington, there is the risk of painting you as someone who is disconnected. Because look, John, you're very, very successful. Congratulations to you on that. And you got a lot of money, so that's helping you with this race. But how can you connect with the Missourian out there who doesn't have a job, who might be on minimum wage? They're trying to say that not knowing the answer to that question proves that you're out of touch with the common Missourian. How do you respond to that? Well,
I'd say that I'm the only one that is truly in touch with the common person, to use your term, but I would call you the people and the teams I've worked with on the factory floor. First of all, I came out of the Marine Corps active duty in the time when Vietnam was winding down. And these weren't necessarily what people would say the best of society. Some of these were go to jail or join the Marine Corps. But I came to learn and respect these folks. I was on the ground with them. We trained with them. We deployed with these guys. We were a team. And the same thing on the factory floor. I mean, my success, I've been very, very fortunate in this American free enterprise system. But those early days, and for many of the years, it wasn't that way. And I'm down there driving the forklifts, loading the trucks. I'm with these folks, and I'm looking for maximum wages. I'm looking how we can improve the wages, because the better we could do together as a team, the more they could get paid. And I started improving all of our benefits and health care, continuing every year to see what we could do to make it better. You know, the liberals are all talking about minimum wage. I'm talking about maximum wage. Good factory jobs, because the more I could pay, the better the benefits, the better people I could attract, the more we could do in terms of competing against the Procter & Gamble's and Johnson & Johnson's and Pfizer's. We were a little tiny company. So I've been with these folks on the floor. I've worked with them. I know them. I love them. I'm passionate. We were a team. No one can tell me that I'm out of touch.
Well, that was sort of my point after this all happened on Friday too, is that we should focus on people. Look, if you have to make minimum wage, you don't want to be stuck there. You want to make more money than that. John Bruner's here this afternoon with us in studio. Another segment coming up.